Hello there. So it has been a little while since I put out a new video, and I just wanted to make this real quick and just let everybody know that I am still here. I am still working on stuff. I've actually just been busy for the last couple of weeks putting together some mini courses that I am sharing with a company to be announced in the near future, so I will definitely let everybody know of that. But I've also released a couple of these mini courses on my website right now at fastermusiccreation.com, so if you're interested in checking those out, feel free to do so. More are definitely on the way, but it's just been kind of taking up the majority of my time lately. So I wanted to give you guys something today. You might have missed this back in the summer. What I did was a series of live streams where I was tackling a specific aspect of songwriting that people were struggling with. And this one that I'm going to share with you today is all about the subject of lyrics. It's actually going to be a two-parter, maybe a three-parter. I'm not even sure. I'm not done editing it yet. But here's part one. I hope it's helpful to you. And if so, let me know. If you have questions about anything I've talked about too, let me know in the comments. So here's part one on lyrics. Enjoy. I wanted to start with having music written, but feeling like you have nothing to say, right? And if you already have music written, that's a huge win in my opinion, because whether it's a riff or a chord progression or a fully fleshed out song, it doesn't really matter. You've already established a specific mood or a specific tone with the music, right? So that's great. Whether you're paying attention to that or not, it's important to know that, like, if you've written something, if you've written a riff or something like that, that came from a feeling somewhere, right? So I think it's important to start exploring what that feeling is and what the root of the feeling is. So to be more specific, like, let's say I wrote, like a metal riff, right? Which happens often. And the emotion that's often associated with these types of riffs is some form of, like, either it's anger or it's passion or it's conviction or it's just intensity of some kind, or it could be like motivation, whatever it's going to be. But as a guitar player, it's much more natural to express my feelings through guitar than it is to communicate it verbally, just because it just cuts right to the heart of the matter, right? That's why we play music. It just conveys what you're feeling instantly. Whereas, if we're trying to explain that to somebody else verbally, it can be very complicated. But back to the whole thing of, like, you have the music written, right? It's already telling you what you're feeling, right? And feelings in one way or another are kind of like messengers of a sort. Like they show up to tell you something, right? That's what emotions are. They're messengers. So getting to the heart of what that actually is, in my opinion, is the first step. So if you have like an angry sounding riff, right? Start writing down, the things that make you angry. Like, it could be anything. Just write down anything. In fact, I think I'm stealing from a quote from, I think it was a Tim Ferriss podcast. I forget the writer who he was quoting. So if anybody knows, definitely let me know in the comments, because I totally do not remember. But basically, the question was, what do you do when you get writer's block? And the writer responded with, I write about what makes me angry, which I think is great, because it's like, it's easy, right? It's easy to be angry. It's easy to, like, to immediately talk about what's bothering you or the negative aspects of things, just because it's kind of hardwired into our survival software, right? Like, even if everything's fine, even if we're safe, even if it's like a beautiful day out, we are still kind of hardwired to find something to complain about, or even more accurately, find something that's wrong, whether it's like, traffic jam or like, any little thing. Like, our brains are designed to look for flaws, because that's part of our survival software, is we're trying to, like, look for any potential dangers or anything like that, right? So looking for what you're angry about, writing about what makes you angry, can be a great first step in starting to get these ideas about, right? Because you could just go full out and just write about what makes you angry and nothing else, or you can explore other options with it. In fact, I was working with a private coaching client of mine, and he suffers from hemophilia. He's a hemophiliac, and he was writing this entire, I think it was like a 4-song EP, maybe it was a 7-song EP, but it was an entire EP based on being a hemophiliac and all of the emotions that are associated with it. So for him, it was very natural to gravitate towards, writing about the frustrations and the anger and all of the negatives of hemophilia. And, you know, it was what was immediate in his attention, is what he could immediately see. So he didn't really take the time to look around that to see if there was anything else to write about for that particular subject. So in us working together, we figured out a way to finally start discovering, the other side of that. So for example, I started asking him to write everything down associated with the feelings that he felt when talking about his condition. And I called it the low-hanging fruit. We were looking for the low-hanging fruit of the subject matter. So it's kind of like, yes, I feel anger, I feel sadness, I feel frustration, I feel, all of these things. And then we started talking, and I asked him about, like, well, is there anything positive about this? Because I truly believe that, like, the positive aspect of anything can be found if you just look for it, right? I feel like it's always there. It's just way harder to see sometimes. So after doing some brainstorming, he realized that living with this condition made him a more compassionate person, because he was able to kind of empathize with others who were struggling with a disorder of their own, or just having more understanding for people in general that have struggles. And it was a huge breakthrough. And we wound up just kind of like, going back and forth and exploring other emotions and other ways to, like, look at one subject and try to even flip the whole perspective. And what was cool is he wound up writing a song that was initially from the first person, but then became about somebody else, where he put all of his ideas into, which I think is amazing. And he wound up finishing everything, and it's awesome. And my point with all this is that to get the gears going, right? A suggestion would be to, go for that low hanging fruit, right? Like, just go for what is easily attainable in your immediate, thought process, but write it all down. Like, that's the important thing, is to just not have it trapped in here. So write everything down, write the feeling that you have, that if it's a riff that you wrote that makes you, that it like feels angry, right? Like, write down anger, and then write down a bunch of different words to describe anger, and then ask yourself, are there any experiences that I have in particular that link to this feeling that are, popping out immediately? This could be like your own, like, self-therapy session if you want it to be. But you can take it from there, and then you could start be like, all right, so here are all the words associated with this one feeling. Is there a picture in my head when I get this riff, or is there a picture in my mind when I think about these feelings, or this topic? Um, is there a particular color to it? Like, some of us out there, like myself included, like, we see particular colors when we hear riffs or music or key signatures or anything like that. Like, what kind of a color does it have? If you're like me or anybody like that, write all this sort of stuff down. Some of it might not work at all, but the point of all of this too is just getting it down on paper, because now you're clearing out that mental space for the gears to kind of start running. And things will show up as a result, I promise, just by doing this. But okay, just to reel it in a little bit, because I'm already like past 10 minutes. All right. Jeez, there's so much more I want to say about this. So step one is, if you already have music written, right? What's the mood of the music, right? Determine that. And then from there, write about that mood and see if you can draw any personal experience associated with that mood, any personal stories, situations, people, anything like that. Write as much as you can about that. And then consider exploring the other side of those emotions. If they're negative emotions, explore what the positives are from that. Was there anything that was learned from the experience? What are you trying to say with all of this sort of stuff? Like, but just get it out on paper as much as possible. All right, well, thanks so much for watching part one. I really hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got a lot out of it. And if you're looking for some material to go even deeper into the subject, I've put together a little PDF that you can grab for free in the link in the description below. And if you grab it, let me know if it's helpful to you. I'm very curious. You know, these are my own personal thoughts on everything and my own personal perspectives on writing lyrics, and just, you know, based on some interactions of people that I've worked with. So I'm curious as to what your personal struggles are with writing lyrics. So let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching.